Have you ever wondered why some people promise change but never move forward? Why do you feel like you're reliving the same movie over and over again, just with different dialogue? There's a scientific explanation for this, and today you'll discover exactly how to identify when someone will never truly change. Mel Robbins, a behavioral neuroscientist and one of the world's leading experts on behavior change, revealed something that can completely transform how you deal with difficult relationships. She discovered 5 specific attitudes that function like an emotional fingerprint. When you see these attitudes, no matter how many promises the person makes, no matter how many tears they shed, no matter how many plans they present, their brain simply isn't programmed for real change. And look, this isn't an opinion, it's pure neuroscience. The human brain has such deep patterns that sometimes it's easier for a person to move to another city than to change their behavior. But here's the crucial point. Those who truly want to change show specific signs, and those who don't want to change also show specific signs. The difference is that most people don't know how to read these signs. Today, you'll learn how to read them. You're going to discover the 5 attitudes that scream loud and clear that a person will never change. And more importantly, you'll understand why recognizing this isn't giving up on someone. It's respecting yourself. If you're tired of never-ending cycles, if you want to stop wasting emotional energy on those who don't deserve it, you need to stay until the end of this video. And if this already makes sense to you, subscribe to the channel, because what you're about to hear in the next few minutes can prevent years of unnecessary emotional strain. Let's start with an uncomfortable truth. Actions reveal much more than promises, much more than tears, much more than elaborate explanations. Mel Robbins is categorical about this. She says that promises arise in times of crisis when a person feels they are going to lose something important. But actions appear in everyday life when no one is pressuring them, when there is no threat on the horizon. It's easy to promise change when you're backed against the wall. It's easy to say things will be different when you feel you might lose someone you love. But what happens when the pressure passes? What happens when things go back to normal? That's when real actions appear. That's when you see if the person has truly internalized the need for change or if they were just doing damage control. Someone who genuinely wants to change makes small, consistent adjustments even when not being asked. They adapt their behavior without being prompted. They demonstrate self-criticism without needing to be confronted. Why? Because real change comes from within, not from external pressure. Those who truly don't want to change have an impressive repertoire of justifications. They call toxic behaviors a difficult phase. They classify destructive patterns as just their way of being. They use stress, work, family, the past, anything, as a shield to avoid taking real responsibility. And here's an important revelation. The brain of a person who doesn't want to change works differently. Neurologically speaking, they've developed such strong neural circuits around old behaviors that any attempt at change generates extreme discomfort. So what happens? The brain finds creative ways to revert to the known pattern, even when that pattern causes problems. Comment, I observe attitudes now, if you want to train your brain to focus on what really matters. Because when you stop being swayed by pretty words and start observing behavioral patterns, your emotional reading changes completely. You stop deluding yourself and start seeing reality. Now let's look at the first attitude that reveals they'll never change. They apologize, but repeat the behavior. This is classic, and Mel Robbins explains exactly why this happens. Apologies without change are pure maintenance strategy. The person acknowledges the mistake because they know it's expected of them. They promise to improve because they know that's what you want to hear. They may even show genuine remorse at the moment, but a week later, 2 months later, 6 months later, there they are doing exactly the same thing. Why does this happen? Because for that person, the problem isn't the behavior itself. The problem is being caught. The problem is causing a crisis. So they resolve the crisis with words, but don't address the root of the behavior with actions. Mel Robbins is direct. Real remorse generates different actions. When someone truly understands that they hurt you, when they truly internalize the impact of what they did, their brain goes on alert to avoid repeating the same mistake. They develop new habits, create systems to remember, and seek help if necessary. But when nothing changes, when you see the same pattern repeating after solemn promises of change, you need to understand that the apology was nothing more than a pause in the conflict, a way to buy time until you forget the problem and life returns to normal. And the most dangerous thing about all this is that these excuses can be extremely convincing. The person may cry, may seem genuinely sorry, may even make small temporary adjustments that make you believe that this time it's different. But if the core behavior doesn't change, if the pattern continues to repeat itself, you need to accept that you are dealing with someone who uses excuses as a tool for emotional manipulation. The second attitude that screams, "He'll never change." He plays the victim when you set boundaries. This is perhaps the most revealing of all, because it shows exactly how the person deals with responsibility. Let's see how this works in practice. You identify a behavior that hurts you. You talk, explain how you feel, establish a clear boundary. And what is his reaction? Drama, guilt, total role reversal. Suddenly, you are no longer the person who was hurt. You are the person being cruel. He is no longer the one who caused the problem. He is the misunderstood victim. Classic phrases you'll hear. "You don't understand what I go through. You're being too hard on me. I do everything for you, and you just complain. You have no patience with me." And the favorite? "You've changed. You're not the person I knew anymore." What is happening here neurologically? The person is activating such deep psychological defense mechanisms that they genuinely believe they are the victim of the situation. Their brain rewrites the narrative in real time to protect their self-image. Because accepting that she is responsible for hurting you would be admitting a fundamental character flaw. And that's unbearable for someone who hasn't developed a real capacity for self-criticism. People who truly want to change listen to boundaries. They may feel uncomfortable. They may need time to process, but they recognize that you have the right to protect yourself. They ask how they can improve, what adjustments they need to make, how they can rebuild trust. Toxic people attack boundaries because boundaries represent an obstacle to continuing to do what they've always done. And they will use every emotional weapon available to break down those boundaries, including making you feel guilty for trying to protect yourself. This behavior is especially dangerous because it messes with your perception of reality. You start to question whether you really have the right to be bothered, whether you're being too demanding, whether you should have more patience. And gradually, you lower your own boundaries until you have none left. The third attitude that reveals he will never change, he systematically minimizes your feelings. This is devastating because it attacks your confidence in your own emotional perception. You express something that hurts you and hear responses like, "You're exaggerating. It's nothing. You're too sensitive. You're making a problem out of nothing. Other people wouldn't care about that. You need to relax." What this person is doing is completely invalidating your emotional experience. And Mel Robbins teaches something fundamental. Those who invalidate feelings don't want to adjust their behavior. Why? Because if your feelings are valid, it means they need to change. If your feelings are exaggerated, it means the problem is with you, not them. Minimizing is a sophisticated way to avoid change. It's a strategy of shirking responsibility disguised as help. The person convinces you that you are the problem, that your sensitivity is excessive, that your expectations are unrealistic, and gradually you lose confidence in your own ability to assess situations. What makes this especially cruel is that it usually happens after moments of vulnerability. You open up, share something that hurts you deeply, and receive in response a lecture on how you should feel differently. It's as if the person takes your pain and returns it to you with a label that says, "defective product." The brain of someone who does this has developed such a strong protection against criticism that it automatically disqualifies any negative feedback. It doesn't matter how kind you are, how careful your approach, how valid your point is. The reaction will always be to minimize it so as not to have to face the possibility of being wrong. And here's the most important detail. People who minimize their feelings don't just do it to you. They do it to everyone. It's a behavioral pattern they use to navigate the world without ever having to question their own actions. It's a way of living without growing. The fourth attitude that indicates he will never change. He only changes when there is a threat of loss. This is fascinating from a psychological point of view because it reveals that the capacity for change exists, but it is only activated by fear, not by love or respect. It works like this. While you are in his life, while the relationship is stable, he continues doing exactly what he always did. But the moment you distance yourself, the moment you threaten to leave, the moment you demonstrate that you will no longer tolerate certain behavior, suddenly miraculous changes appear. He may seek therapy, he may change harmful habits, he may become the most caring person in the world. And you think, finally, he understood. But here's the problem. As soon as the threat passes, as soon as he feels you're safe in the relationship again, everything reverts to the old pattern. Gradually, almost imperceptibly, but it returns. Why does this happen? Because for this person, change isn't about personal growth or creating a better relationship. Change is about damage control. It's about keeping you around. It's an emotional survival strategy, not genuine transformation. Mel Robbins explains that change motivated solely by fear of loss is unsustainable. The human brain cannot maintain behaviors that are only motivated by external pressure. Eventually, motivation diminishes, discipline fails, and the person reverts to neural patterns that are more familiar and comfortable. Real, lasting change happens when a person develops intrinsic motivation, when they want to be better, not to keep someone, but to become the best version of themselves. When they understand that their behaviors affect people they love, and this becomes unacceptable to them, regardless of whether there is a threat of loss or not. If you are with someone who only changes under pressure, you are not in a relationship. You are in a constant negotiation. And this is emotionally exhausting because it means you always have to be ready to leave for the person to treat you well. The fifth and final attitude that reveals he will never change. He constantly shifts blame. Nothing, absolutely nothing is his responsibility. There is always an external reason, always someone to blame, always a circumstance that justifies the behavior. He was late because the traffic was bad. He yelled because he was stressed at work. He didn't keep promises because of unforeseen circumstances. He hurt you because you weren't clear about what you wanted. He lied because he didn't want to worry you. He cheated because you were going through a difficult time. What's happening here is that the person has developed a psychological identity based on being a victim of circumstances. Their brain literally can't process the idea that they might be the cause of their own problems. It's as if there's a neurological block that prevents real self-criticism. Mel Robbins calls this pathological externalization. The person projects responsibility outward so automatically that they don't realize they're doing it. And the most dangerous thing is that, over time, they manage to convince you that they really aren't to blame for anything that happens in their life. You start accepting absurd explanations. You start turning a blind eye to obvious patterns. You start taking responsibility for things that clearly aren't your fault. Because it's easier to believe there's an explanation than to accept that you're with someone who simply doesn't take responsibility for anything. And here's the most important point. Someone who doesn't take responsibility for their own actions will never change, because change requires recognizing that there is something to be changed. If a person can't see that they are part of the problem, they will never be part of the solution. Comment, I don't negotiate boundaries, if you understand that setting boundaries is non-negotiable. This decision protects your emotional well-being and your mental sanity. Because when you stop trying to convince someone to treat you well and simply demand respectful treatment, everything changes. Now, after identifying these 5 attitudes, you need to understand something fundamental. Recognizing that someone will never change is not giving up on that person. It's respecting yourself. It's choosing not to waste emotional energy trying to transform someone who doesn't want to be transformed. Mel Robbins constantly reinforces this. You don't convince someone to change. You decide how far you'll go. And this decision doesn't need to be accompanied by anger, revenge, or drama. It can be accompanied by clarity, peace, and self-love. Someone who will never change doesn't need to announce it. They show it in the tireless repetition of the same patterns. They show it in the automatic resistance to the boundaries you set. They show it in the lack of consistent action even after solemn promises. They show it in the inability to take real responsibility for their own actions. And you don't need to wait for change to decide how you want to live. You don't need to wait for the person to become different to choose whether you want to live with who they are today. You don't need to wait for miracles to decide if you deserve relationships that nourish you instead of draining you. Real change requires 3 non-negotiable elements: responsibility, discomfort, and consistent action. Responsibility to acknowledge that there is a problem. Discomfort to step out of your behavioral comfort zone. Consistent action to create new neural patterns. Where any of these elements are missing, where the person uses charm, tears, promises, or manipulation to avoid these 3 pillars, the cycle will repeat indefinitely. And awareness of this is the endpoint of unnecessary emotional wear and tear. You have 2 options: accept the person exactly as they are, with all their limitations and problems, without expecting change, or decide that you deserve something different and move on. What you can't do is stay in the middle ground, waiting for a transformation that will never happen, wasting years of your life in a hope that ignores clear evidence. Remember, some people change when they find enough motivation. Other people change when faced with unavoidable consequences. But some people simply don't change, no matter what happens. And recognizing the difference between these 3 types is an emotional skill that can save your life. If this video brought you clarity about situations you're experiencing, if it helped you understand patterns you may have been denying, please like and share it with someone who needs to hear this. And subscribe to the channel because we'll continue exploring topics that truly make a difference in your emotional life. The truth sets you free, even if it hurts at first.